When parties come to mediation, they come with a certain problem. And mediator helps, with the help of questions, makes it possible to transform a problem into a task. I know that the meaning of these two words is almost the same, but problem has a negative sense. When there is a task is usually completable, it is manageable. And once it is completed, it means that solution is found. To ask good questions, you need to be aware of different functions of questions. It's good when we ask questions because we are curious. But in mediation, we should not ask questions just because of our curiosity. We should ask questions on purpose. First of all, questions help us to obtain information, valuable information, information that could help to move parties forward. The second function is attracting attention to something important, even in personal life. For example, you are discussing a trip or a new business project, or maybe you want to be heard and to convince another person in something that you are believing. Questioning is a very good tool to accomplish this task. The third function is understanding obligations. Imagine that you are a new partner in the project and you do not understand your obligations fully. If you ask good questions and you understand them, you will perform them well in future, and it will prevent you from potential conflicts. Another very important function of the questions is stimulating thinking process. There are individuals who are open, and you can ask them one question and you will hear the whole story in details. But there is another part of individuals who are not so open, or maybe situation itself is very emotional to discuss. And it means that you need to ask more questions. Of course, it will take some more time to build a rapport and you will need to ask much more questions. But if you know that there is such a function and you know that there is such a type of questions, stimulating questions, it will help you to build a rapport with such an individual. There is another function of questions to call for an action. Sometimes negotiation gets slow, and you need such questions which help to accomplish this function, not just to speed up the process itself, but to shift parties from discussions of the issue itself to possible solutions and necessary actions in this regard. If to speak about different types of questions, there are two main types, open-ended questions and close-ended questions. Both are good types. I cannot say, and I'm not saying that close-ended questions are not good ones. But close-ended questions, usually they are followed by answers yes or no or maybe, or another answer which contains one or two words and it's not informative. If you want to have a fruitful conversation with your vis-a-vis, you should ask more open-ended questions, especially in the beginning of your conversation. Open-ended questions, I call them questions which open the door of connection and understanding. And these questions usually begin with the following words and phrases. Why, what, how, tell me more about, could you please explain, and some others. And I would like to focus a bit on why questions. Why questions are very important and are very useful in mediation process, but sometimes they can be taken as too much direct questions. But still, you need to learn how to ask why questions, because exactly why questions help to explore reasons, interests, to know more about motives of the parties. What does a good question sound like? First of all, the question should be specific. It's not easy to ask specific questions, but you need to learn how to ask specific questions. For example, when my children come home from school, of course, I can ask them just, how are you? But this is a very formal question and it's not informative. If I really want to know how are they, I ask them questions like, how was your day? What did you eat? What have you learned? What about your friends? What about your teachers, etc., etc. The more specific your question, the better it is understood by your vis-a-vis, by the person you are asking. The question should be related to the topic or issue. It should be relevant. Imagine the situation when your colleague is complaining about additional job duties. And at this moment, you are asking him, so how do you find my haircut? It's not a relevant question to ask at the moment. And the questions should be asked on time. Even if you have a good question and this question is asked on the wrong time, sorry, it's a wrong question. As mediators, we know that we can have some helpful and interesting questions for the parties beforehand, but we also should feel appropriate moment to ask this question, because again, I will repeat again, if it's a good question but asked in the wrong time, it's a wrong question.